Welcome to Become an Idol. I'm Dr. Robin Sargent, owner of Idol Courses. This is the place where newbies come to learn and veterans share their knowledge. I have here with me today Christopher Fox, and he is an Idol Courses Academy member who is, of course, now an Idol success story. And I brought Christopher on because I want him to share his story and his journey to become an idol. So, Christopher, would you please do a better job of introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Robin. It's a pleasure to be here, and just to, I guess, go into my background a little bit. I was, prior to going through the Idol Academy, I was a classroom teacher, and so I was teaching, 8th grade U.S. history and teaching middle school, junior high. So I kind of had a few changes that happened in my life. I guess it was 2019. I moved out of state. I was living in California, relocated out of state to Oregon, and had a kind of a big transition in my life where I was unemployed for a little bit as I had just moved out of state, and thought about, did I want to continue teaching, or did I want to consider other avenues? And it just so happened that during all of that process, while I was thinking about that, there was also this thing called the pandemic that happened and kind of threw everything into confusion. So, during the course of that process, I considered, what were my career goals? Where do I want to be working? Was I concerned about my health in terms of, if I was going to be in a workplace and exposed to COVID essentially during that time? What were my salary expectations? Did I need to change some of those things? So all of those things were kind of, I guess, big considerations and why I started looking into other career avenues. And I came across the field of learning and development, of instructional design, of which led me to Idol Courses Academy.
Now, which cohort specifically were you a part of, Christopher?
So that would have been, started in January of 2020. Oh, no, January of 2021 of this year.
Oh, and that was like the first time we did Do It Messy. Okay, I got you. All right, so you found Idol Courses Academy as soon as you landed on instructional design. What made you think like instructional design, that's where I want to go when you were doing your research?
Well, I wanted to find a career path where I could really bring my skill set that I had as a teacher, whether that was leading instruction, instructor-led trainings, or my knowledge of how to connect with learners and help them engage with content. So my facilitation skills as well that I had from being a teacher. And I was lucky that I had met someone through my family that was also an instructional designer, worked in learning and development. And so she kind of, she familiarized me with a few different, at this point, I still wasn't sure where did I want to go with this interest. So she familiarized me with the eLearning Heroes Challenge. She familiarized me with these storyline challenges that you can do, and some different podcasts that she listened to, so that I could start learning more about the field. And then, like I said, during that process, I also stumbled across the Idol Courses Academy, And so I kind of evaluated, what, okay, I'm really interested in this field. Now, what path is best for me? Do I want to do a certificate course in instructional design? Do I want to do Idle Courses Academy? What path would be best for me to pursue this? It was kind of a big leap of faith for me, because, it's like I was completely leaving. I have a master's in education. I'm completely leaving the field of classroom teaching. It was a little scary. So I had to decide, well, okay, I'm going to enroll in this program. And then I think what really got me excited about Idle Courses was I did the Do It Messy challenge, like you said. And after that, I was totally hooked. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do this now.
I love it. So it's always really nice that you had somebody that you could turn to in your own family and ask them questions and get pointed to resources and things like that. All right. So you enrolled in January after the Become an Idol challenge. And just for clarification, the Do It Messy is actually in the academy, but we do a Become an Idol challenge, like 5 free days of training. Okay. So you enrolled in January and you started. And so tell us, what did your journey look like once you joined the academy? I mean, did you were you still unemployed at this time? And so you just focused and, put in hours of work, or what did the actual process look like for you all the way up until you started applying for jobs?
Yeah. So, so thanks for correcting on that. Yeah. So it was the was it the Become an Idol challenge? I think it's called, the 5 days that we did. Yeah. So I did that, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to commit myself to this full time. And so I was like, okay, I enrolled in the program. I'm going to pretend like I'm in a job every day and, pursue the academy full time. So I started, before I started the academy, I was doing research, listening to podcasts, trying to learn more about the different job titles. And then once the academy started, I just went into the different course modules and I started just going through those, because one of the things that really motivated me and I liked about the Idle Courses Academy is that you have a structure of, these are the things you need to do to this portfolio that you need to create in order to, prepare for applying for a role. And it really motivated me that, there were a lot of people that were getting hired within weeks, months of starting the program, and it was self-paced. And that was something that really appealed to me about the program. That was motivating to me. It was like, okay, I'm making a big leap of faith here. I'm leaving I left my other job. I need to do this. So there's no going back. I have to just, pursue this program and then get hired. Like I said, I was just working on the modules and trying to earn my badges as well. Taking in as much content from the Idle Academy as I could. So I was listening to a lot of these podcasts, every day, and trying to learn more about other people's experiences. So, I would say, if you're considering or you're going through the Idle Courses Academy, that's one of the things that's great is you have a lot of, really amazing people who with different experiences, either coming to learning and development, instructional design, or people who are already experienced who are mentors in the academy. So that was just a huge resource for me.
So about how many hours per week did you put in, you think?
How many hours?
What did you focus on? Did you just focus on building your portfolio? How much of your portfolio did you get done before you started applying? Give us the details.
Well, hard to put a number of hours that I spent a week, but maybe, I don't know, like a standard work week. So the hardest thing for me initially was design skills and, learning to put together a portfolio. I had to learn to use Photoshop essentially. And, I mean, I didn't have to do that, but I was like, okay, I want to learn how to do this so that I can, create a good looking website and work on putting together better instructional materials and, e-learning. And so, from what little I knew about those things, I was like, okay, I need to get better at this because I had seen some of the samples of other students in the academy already. And I was like, wow, okay, there are some people who are amazing at this. I want to get better at this. That was taking me a lot of time. Like I would say I spent a lot, more time in the first few weeks just on that, and obviously something that I'm still working on, but design skills were really important to me.
So, I mean, probably more specifically, you are talking about like your visual design skills.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, visual design. Yeah.
Okay, so you're spending like 40 hours a week. You're like just going all the way in. It's great even that you were able to determine what your own learning gaps were, right? Just by kind of being in the community, seeing the exemplars and things like that. And you're like, oh, it's visual design for me. That's what I'm going to focus on. And so how many assets in your portfolio did you have before you started applying?
So I want to say I had probably one asset for each category so I had an instructional aid. I had a e-learning sample, an Articulate 360 sample, and also I believe an instructional guide, facilitator guide that I had put together. And so those were kind of my initial samples. And then I started applying to jobs after probably about a month in the program.
So so you knocked it out in a month, which is impressive already. And did you go to mentors and did you submit things to coaches?
Yeah. So that was one of the things I loved about the program was the mentor aspect of the program, because I mean, every aspect of going through this process is challenging to begin with. There's such a big learning curve, whether it is visual design skills, interviewing for a role, putting together a portfolio, it's wherever, however overwhelmed you may be feeling by all this process, the Academy had so many great resources that, especially I felt the mentors who, really went above and beyond to, provide me with feedback that helped me to grow. So, that helped a lot of things in terms of starting to get on the right path, and especially I think my e-learning of putting together, storyline samples and really understanding how all those pieces fit together. So, but yeah, the mentors were helpful in a lot of ways.
Did you give yourself did you set like a deadline for I will apply by this time? I mean, you got things ready and you were applying within the month. Did you have a deadline in mind?
I tried to put a deadline on myself of that challenge, that do it messy challenge was kind of my deadline of like, okay, I'm going to have all of this ready. I'm going to, do everything that, keep up with my classmates in the academy, and then, start applying to roles once the do it messy challenge is completed.
I love it. So many people get scared at that point, right? When they've only had like 14 steps and we're like, go ahead and apply. And they're like, really? Are you sure? But I love it. You did it anyway. And so, all right, you started applying a month after you joined. And then do you have any idea about how many you applied to? Did you target specific types of roles? How many interviews did you get? What does your data look like for that?
That was part of the scary process is applying to roles when there are so many different types of roles: curriculum developer, instructional designer, and on and on and on, right? So that was part of the scary process is, am I qualified for this role? And, is it something that there's all those other factors that go into it of, are they looking to hire someone who is new to the field and things like that? That's a whole nother thing. But it was scary too. I was like, well, I'm done with the Do It Messy challenge, but I don't really feel that it's like a perfect portfolio, And so I think that was part of the leap of faith as well, as just, being like, okay, it's not perfect, but in this process of interviewing and starting to apply for roles, I'm still going to be working on it. I'm still going to be improving it. And, a lot of the classmates that I keep in touch with from the IDLE Academy are still working on their portfolio, still revising it all the time. And so that's one of the things I love about this field, is that people are constantly, those that are committed, constantly working on professional development, and there's always opportunities for growth. So I just kind of, I was scared, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump into this.
How many jobs did you apply for?
How many jobs did I apply for? A lot. A lot. That's part of the scary part. At least 15 interviews, I would say. Maybe more. It's one of the things that was a challenge for me is in all of this process was learning to be better at interviewing. So I would say that the Academy was very helpful in terms of coaching me up on those things, and I had opportunities to practice. So that was a challenging part for me, but I eventually did land a role as curriculum developer. So there was an end to the road, but it was a long one.
So you had 15 first round interviews?
Oh,
or 15 in total, you think?
I think
like
in total.
Yeah,
that's not that was just a guess, but something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. And so then you got some traction and you started to get interviewed for the role that you currently have. How many interviews did you go through to land your current job?
In the role that I landed currently, I had to go through 3 different interviews. The initial interview was a phone screening. And then the second interview was a panel interview. And the third interview was in person, again, with my my previous supervisor, who was my manager at the time.
And so when did you get to this interview that led to the job that you landed? How many months after you joined is this right now?
So I just passed the 6th month of being in my role. So 6 months. It took me, in terms of how long it took to actually, from the first interview to the last, it took about a month, I would say, to do the onboarding and interview, all those things.
Did you land your job within 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months of joining the Academy? Like, what month did you land your job?
That was in May. So that would have been within 3, maybe? I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, because we usually start at the end of January, almost February.
Yeah.
And so, about About 3 months.
Yeah. So I was, getting concerned because I was like, I've seen a lot of my classmates getting hired in roles, and I was nervous. I was like, oh no, I'm taking so long to interview and get hired. Um, but there was an end in sight. So
It totally was. Okay, so tell us you landed the job. Tell us about any of the feedback they gave you, or like why they picked
mhm.
you, or what were some things that you picked
Mhm.
up during that interview process, for the one that ultimately became your role.
Yeah. So the part of the reason I got the role was because of my experience with Idle Courses Academy and the e-learning development skills that I had picked up. So that was a really important component because that's a good percentage of what I do as curriculum developers. I design the e-learning for our new hires. Um, so that was part of it. The other part was facilitation skills and being able to, I help facilitate the new hire orientation for our employees. So that's a very important part of what I do as well as having I don't say an expert knowledge, but a basic knowledge of the ADDIE process was very important to start building upon and really understanding how learning and development works at the corporate level.
Wonderful. So your current title is curriculum developer, right? And I've heard you say that a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can you tell us like the company you work
Mhm.
at, or the type of company you
Yeah.
work
So
at? Or
the company is a privately owned company. It's called Parr Lumber. So it's a lumber company here in the Northwest. So a lot of our learners are they're new hires to the company who are working in the lumber yards, or maybe they're drivers making deliveries, or maybe they're customer service people who are learning how to best serve our customers. And most of our customers um, are large builders or contractors here in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, where I live. So that's kind of to give our learners and customers in a nutshell. But that's who I'm serving, and I mostly serve like I said, the new hires. So I'm helping during the onboarding process of orientation and new hire trainings for them on the different topics that they need to learn to be successful in their role.
do you work on site?
Yes, I do. So I have some remote days, and then I have some other days when I'm on site.
What do you love about being an instructional designer? Obviously, you were a teacher before, and now you're an instructional designer for a lumber company, which actually probably sounds really cool. Seems like you do some really fun things for your new employees.
Uh,
So I mean, just share kind of the differences between your work lifestyle.
mhm.
What's that?
Yeah, well, I actually I love it. It's like perfect for me because I love number one, I love customer service. I love trying to figure out what do people need, you know, to ask them that question, what are you working on? How can we best serve you? Um, and At our company, we say internal customers. So like each other, fellow employees, and then we have external customers um, that we serve. So our contractors or um, you know individual homeowners increasingly are coming to our company um, for projects that they're working on, um, and so I really love it. And I think another thing that really excites me is I like what we do. The fact that I didn't expect that I would be working for a lumber company, but I really love you know building things and seeing all parts of that process. So for me, it just worked out really well, that just having that, it's a, if you think about it, it's a very basic need, and it's very fulfilling to me that we help people build homes.
I mean, that it's so fundamental, right? I mean, that's something that we just take advantage of, but you look around and you're like, oh yeah, just about everything in this room came from a lumber company. So that's wonderful. So you have job satisfaction. And I hear a lot of teachers say, like, I get to go to the bathroom when I want to. And but you kind of have, you said you do facilitation and e-learning development and curriculum design. So it sounds like you kind of have a hybrid role, right? You're like both a trainer and an instructional designer. Is that right?
Right. So right now it's, we're kind of in a transition period. So we have a training manager who is my manager, and then we have the curriculum developer, which is me. And we've been in the process of trying to onboard for a training facilitator. So someone to facilitate the different trainings that our company has, like orientation, some other things on our point of sale system and other technologies that we have. But we don't have that person hired yet. So it's, in the meantime, we've taken on some of those other responsibilities, which I'm okay with. I really love facilitating the new hire orientation and seeing people, really excited about, about coming to the company. And I love to tell them, my story and kind of, why I'm excited about the company. It's just very fulfilling.
I love it. All right. So there are so many, Christopher, that are exactly where you used to be. They are teachers who want to make the transition to become a corporate instructional designer. And so I know that they would just love to hear from you. I mean, you might have felt like a little discouraged that it took you 3 to 4 months to land your role, but that is completely, it's still quite an accomplishment. I mean, it took you a whole month to get through the interview process. It took you less than a month to build your portfolio. So really, that's not that long when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. And so what would be like your best advice and encouragement to those who are where you used to be?
If instructional design, if learning and development is something that, you're really excited, you're completely devoted to, I would say just, if that's the path you're going, just put your all, just put 100%. And that might involve, a lot of interviews. But every time you interview, you'll learn something new. So just be open to learning and continuing to develop. Even though you're not in a role, you're still developing your interview skills. For instance, you're developing, your portfolio samples, and people will see that, and just make sure that you have that passion also for, for the role that you're applying for, and for the company as well. People really want to see that, I think any role that I've ever gotten, it's not just that I'm passionate about the job itself, it's that I'm also have a passion for, for the company, or for the for the company that you're going to be applying to. If you have that, I would say that's an excellent start. And just realize that there's also it's that learning curve. There's a big learning curve to, you're coming from teaching, you have a lot of valuable skills. You have facilitation skills, you have very strong knowledge of your learners. And those are things that are very valuable to learning and development organizations. Just having been in my role for about 6 months, everybody's, not everybody, but, I've gotten a lot of feedback about, wow, you really know a lot about facilitation and your learners, and that's very valuable to us. So I would say as a teacher, you are uniquely positioned to be very successful in an instructional design role. So just realize that your skills are very valuable here.
I love it, Christopher. That is excellent advice, especially the part of it's easy, right, to get like wrapped up in the passion for the craft, but to also make sure to do your research and your homework and really have a compelling story about why you want to work specifically for that company. I think that is excellent advice. And I mean, even just the way that you boiled it down to, I didn't know I'd be working for a lumber company, but it's really cool to know that I am a part of what goes into every home. So, if people can even just go and find something as simple as that about why they want to work for a specific company, I think it would really connect the dots for those hiring managers. So thank you so much, Christopher, for sharing your story and your journey with us and your wonderful, wonderful advice. And thanks again for coming on the Become an Idol podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robin.
Thank you so much for listening. You can find the show notes for this episode at idlecourses.com. If you like this podcast and you want to become an instructional designer and online learning developer, join me in the Idle Courses Academy, where you'll learn to build all the assets you need to land your first instructional design job, early access to this podcast, tutorials for how to use the eLearning authoring tools, templates for everything course building, and paid instructional design experience opportunities. Go to idlecourses.com/academy and enroll or get on the wait list. Now get out there and build transcendent courses.